All right, this video is looking at the second extended response video from the worksheet. So we went through number one in another video that went for quite long. So I'm going to try to keep this one a little bit shorter. Hopefully not make too many errors with my digital pen. Okay, so question 2. Maria produces nature DVDs. The initial setup costs for the DVD $40, and then it costs her $6 to produce each DVD. Okay, so write an equation that will give the relationship between the cost of production and the number of DVDs. Okay, so when we have to set up an equation, we want to know cost because, let's try to turn the pen on. Okay, so the cost changes, we call that a variable. The reason why we call it a variable is because it varies. And the cost is dependent on how many DVDs are bought. Okay, so the cost equals something depending on how many DVDs are produced. Okay, so each DVD costs $6 to produce. So we can say, all right, the cost is equal to $6 per DVD. What a beautiful N. Okay, and we have a flat fee of $40. So that $40 means no matter how many DVDs I make, I still have to pay $40. So the $40 could be, I don't know, just editing costs. It's pretty cheap for editing costs, but just $40 flat fee. Okay, so if I sold 2 DVDs, it's 6 times 2 plus 40, which is 52. All right, so in question B, we actually have to do some substitution. So complete the table of values below for this relationship. Okay, so what we do is we substitute 10 for N, 20 for N, and so on. I won't keep drawing arrows. So here we have 6 times 10 plus 40. 6 times 10 plus 40, 60 plus 40 is $100, and I'm writing over the page, but it's okay. Okay, so 6 times 20 is 120 plus 40, it's $160. You don't have to put the dollar in if you don't want to. 6 times 30 is 180 plus $40 is 220. And then 40 times 6 to 43. I feel like I've made this. No, 280. Yeah. The reason I thought it was 300, but initially I can see it's going up by $60. Okay, so going up $60 each time. All right, so construct a graph. Okay, so I'm going to have to get rid of this because otherwise we're not going to be able to see the graph. Come on. Let's make it smaller too so we can actually see it. Whoops, not that small. Okay, come on. All right, so I'm going to rewrite the equation. I'll just rewrite it over here. So C equals 6N plus 40. Okay, so the 40 is our y-intercept, which is here. And when you draw graphs, you need to substitute in another point because it's a bit hard to, or you can't get the x-intercept because it's not here, okay, because we're going down here and it's not negative. And plus, cost can only be positive. The reason we used the table before is because we had substituted in 10, 40, 30, and 40. We didn't do 50, but we did 40. Now, when you're sketching a straight line, all you need is 2 points. So we've got this point here. We can't use the x-intercept because we don't have the x-axis, but we can use the point at 10, the point at 20, 30, or 40. The best thing to do is to choose a point at the end. And because we already did 40, I'm going to use that point. So remember from the table before, we found that when the number of DVDs was 40, the cost was 280. So let's just draw that dot here. There we go. Beautiful. Now, I am going to try to draw a line now without, let's draw an arrow. Technically that should be right. I'll draw a red one. Okay, so we go from this point here. Oh, that's a nice arrow, isn't it? Okay, and see how I've gone through that point and kept going. Now, technically, your line should have arrows unless they're restricted. Okay, so it does start here because we don't have negative costs, but your costs can continue. Okay, there's no end point for your cost, so you should really put an arrow at the end. So again, just to recap how to do this one, 40 is your y-intercept, so we start there. From the table of values that we did previously, we knew there was the point here, 40 to 80, and then you're just drawing the line going through. If you didn't do that table of values, you just substitute, and because 50 is at the end here, I would probably substitute in 50, so it would be 6 times 50 plus 40, which is 340. And if you see here, here's 340 going across, clearly goes through there. So you should be able to read stuff off a graph as well. All right, let's move on. Maria intends to sell the DVDs to cover her costs. She sells each DVD for $8. Write the equation for the revenues. So revenue means how much money you get from selling something. And although you won't be assessed on this, just trying to think, it is a huge part of the further maths course. So it's $8 per DVD. So your equation is just R equals 8N. Question E, complete the table of values for this. So we're just substituting it in. So if we sold 10 DVDs, we get $80. Sold 20 DVDs, we get $160. 30 DVDs, testing my maths, 240, and then 40 DVDs, 320. Now we have to add the graph to the previous one. And then question G, how many does Miss M need to sell to break even? All right, so it's going to require me to remember. Okay, so let me just quickly draw on. So we had two equations, our cost equation, which I'm going to write again, C equals 6N plus 40, and our revenue equation, which I might do in red so we can differentiate between the two. Whoops, sorry. Revenue equals 8N. Okay, so let's draw the two lines now. Okay, so we'll do the cost in blue, even though I did it in red before. So it was at 40. And let's do that. And then the other one, our red one, y-intercept is at 0, so I start at 0 and the end point is at 400 because 8 times 50 is 400. Okay, so there's your revenue equation, your cost equation. If you ever have to draw more than one graph, you should differentiate between the two. Here I've differentiated using color, but if you're using the same colored pen, then you need to actually write what they are. So you can just say, all right, this is revenue and this one's cost. All right, so the very last question said, what is the break-even point? The break-even point, okay, so break-even is when your cost equals your revenue. So basically, if you ever own a business, you want to at least break even because up until, so if we go to our graph, up until this break-even point here, we're making a loss. Okay, we have not made any money, so we have to break even. So that means your profit is equal to 0. Okay, and then basically from that point forward, you're in profit. So you can see here the cost is greater than the money you are getting up until here, your break-even point, and then when you continue, your cost is below your revenue, so the money you're getting in, so then you're making money. break even is where simultaneous equations come in. So if we're just going to say the cost, so our cost is 6n plus 40, and our revenue is 8n, and then we just solve for n. So what is that going to be? 40 equals 2n, so n equals 20. And I can see that kind of from the graph. So here's 20. See how the intersection there is at 20? Okay, I could have done solve on the calculator as well. Okay, so I know it happens when I sell 20 DVDs, but that is when the revenue, I knew that was going to happen. All right, let's just get rid of that. So that is when the revenue is equal to, so if we're selling 20 DVDs, 8 times 20 is 160, which you would have been able to see on the graph, but I'm not dealing with that now. I'm going to move on. I don't like that zoom. I don't know how it zooms. Let's do something with my hand. All right, so question 3 we'll do on, I'll just make sure I finished with this one. Cool. So question 3 we'll do on another video. Oh, 11 minutes, that's fantastic.